In the last bout, Lexie Hull suffered a really gory knot in the center of her forehead. You know, they actually performed a scan. Lexie Hull is scheduled to perform in Los Angeles tomorrow. I am quite upset with the coaching and training staff. At the Indiana Fever, she appears to have been in a 12-round boxing match. It's really physical in this league. For a long time, Lexie has been in a league. It's not doing fantastic. This is crazy, but I wish it were a filter. This is how it seems. The Indiana Fever recently experienced 2 incidents that stunned the WNBA community during a season full of drama. A few days after the headbutt with Gabby Williams, Lexie Hull was seen. She appears to have been in a 12-round boxing match. Suffering a terrifying injury, Lexie Hull appeared to have been through 12 rounds of a boxing match, but she wasn't going to give up. However, the fact that she is warming up with the club is a real plus for the Indiana Fever in the long run. It implies that Caitlin Clark will most likely return soon, and just when fans thought things couldn't get crazier. Caitlin Clark made a spectacular return to the court, sending shockwaves across the league. If I gave you a picture of every member of the Indiana Fever, every member of the WNBA fans discuss toughness. They typically mention the big names and stars that make the news. Fever, the players, and I ask, who in this picture is the toughest? She has showed us time and time again that, to borrow a metaphor, she is a beast without exception. However, in recent days, the focus of discussion has switched to a single player who displayed a distinct kind of greatness. Lexie Hull is that player. We will return to the game first. Kayla McBride made the decision to elbow Lexie during the match versus Minnesota. A horrible play. It began against the Minnesota Lynx, as I mentioned. Lexie was locked in on defense, fighting through as she always does. Screens, difficult shots, and working hard for each and every possession. I'm going to examine it. That's why I'm on hold in Indiana. That is a technicality, though. That dead ball contact is technical. It was difficult to see. Suddenly, Caleb McBride's elbow made a direct contact with her jaw. Players couldn't later dismiss this as an accident. Cal was crumpled by a purposeful shot. Her legs were folded under her on the floor. Quote, an elbow was thrown at her. You'll also notice that I did not say inadvertent elbow because I did intentionally elbow her mouth. Her jaw might have been fractured. Thankfully, she didn't. She folds her leg beneath her. She falls to the ground with a thud. She stands up, holds her face for a moment, then returns to the competition. Fans and teammates feared the worst for a few tense seconds, a concussion, a shattered jaw. That could have been the end of her season. However, in typical Lexie Hull way, she rose, held hersis, and immediately resumed competing. You could tell everything about her mindset from that one moment. According to the footage, however, Gabby and I just happened to cross paths, which is regrettable and unlucky. I believe we both have knots on our heads, so it's okay because we both continued to play. The narrative didn't end there, though. Disaster struck once more in the game against the Seattle Storm a few days later. This time, it was just plain bad luck, not nefarious play. It's really physical in this league. Lexie has been a member of the league for a long time. She is essentially accustomed to it. It demonstrates her character and her fierceness as a warrior. In my opinion, Lexie is a fighter. She could probably give it as well as she can take it, in my opinion. Additionally, I support Lexie's status as an Indiana Fever girl warrior. Lexie and Gabby Williams met head-on while Lexie was chasing a loose ball. It was a horrible impact. She had to go through the concussion protocol after leaving the court. Finn is listening to this, guys, because she mentioned that the swelling was actually in her side vision. Did you catch a glimpse of the video board? Did you look at it, for example? No, it was visible to me watching, as though I could see it with my own eyes. Thus, I had no need to search elsewhere. I was aware that it would be significant. No, so it's in your peripheral view. Indeed, literally. It was like protruding. Even though it's still large here, I could see it was larger. As a result, they somewhat lowered it. The immediate aftermath was captured on camera. A huge lump appeared on her forehead. She claimed that it was so large that she could actually see it in her peripheral vision. On TV, viewers referred to it as one of the scariest things they had witnessed this season. Therefore, it's hilarious that yousking that, since it's not doing well. I wish this was a filter. But this is crazy, I must say. This is my appearance. Yes, these are the glasses I've been wearing all day, but the knot seems to have vanished. I still feel a little puffy. And if you thought the knot looked terrible, it looked considerably worse the following morning. 2 dark, bulging black eyes were all that was left after the swelling subsided. Her visage was featured in viral photos. She appears to have been in a 12-round boxing match. I have to admit, people, if I see Lexie in her entirety with 2 black eyes, holy smokes, what an amazing sight. Running out there, 2 black eyes clenched, was Lexie Hull. I wish this was a filter. Oh, that's not true. Reporters made jokes about how she appeared to have gone through 12 rounds with either Clarissa Shields or Mike Tyson. Even Lexie, I wish this was a filter. But it wasn't. It was real. She appeared to have just left a boxing ring, but she was already getting ready for the next match in an attempt to lighten the mood. Additionally, I suppose that on Tuesday you was examined for face fractures and concussions. To what extent did the fact that you had no facial fractures or concussions bring you relief? Yes, to be honest, when it occurred, I felt as though I was ready to go, so I was relieved. I was totally in tune with it. After completing all the necessary tests, they immediately applied ice to try to reduce the swelling, but knowing that it could have been far worse made me feel wonderful. Additionally, I appreciate that folks are reaching out to me online to see how I'm doing. But I'm fine. I've had a thorough examination. This is the noteworthy aspect. There were no facial fractures or concussions shown by scans. Lexie was allowed to play even though she appeared to have been in combat. The majority of players would have rested. However, that's not how Lexie is wired. I mean, if I feel like I can play, I can play. If I can play, the issue isn't whether I look good or not. You know, in my opinion, the team is the most important factor. Crucial element. Attaining victory is the most essential thing, and I will do my best to help if I can. Therefore, it is what it is, if it is playing a little hurt or injured, she joked with. Teammates about makeup artists concealing the damage. Laughed about having to cover the bruises for a photo shoot and immediately returned to her work. She dismissed the question about her toughness by saying, "I'll play if I can." She played hard. She didn't just play. In the end, she pulled in 9 rebounds during that game. She once swooped over to pursue something, the ball, someone's defense, or anything else. And I thought, oh Dot, because I keep saying give me a bunch of Lexus on a team, even if I'm thinking. All I'm seeing is another head coming in her direction. During that same span, Lexie grabbed Nina, flung herself on the ground for loose balls, pulled down rebounds in a single game, and never once backed down from contact. She was fighting, chewing gum, and laughing as if nothing had happened, despite having 2 black eyes. Def said, you know, every time Chas sees you with the 2 black eyes, and she smiles in a manner because it just illustrates your tenacity. Do these 2 black eyes make you feel tough in these kinds of situations? That's what I keep hearing. After all, she always smiles when she sees me and then says, "I'm so sorry." I respond, "You don't need to be sorry. This is what it is." And I seem to forget about it when I'm playing. After that, I go check myself in the mirror. That's why her instructor, Stephanie White, couldn't help but smile when she saw Lexie. I'm like, oh, they're still there. She referred to it as the idealin, illustration of tenacity. It's the sort of grime that motivates a whole locker room. Although box scores are a topic of much discussion among fans, Lexie Hull gives Indiana something that is incalculable. Heart, shadow, scent, voice, any complaints. she doesn't flop. She simply plays through her agony rather than begging for calls. Yes. As it turned out, Wednesday was our off day and I had a photo shoot. I thought, my goodness, I'm going to look terrible. At first I thought, I just need to get the swelling in my forehead to go down. So I applied a patch, slept with it the following day, and when I woke up, I thought, okay, though that was horrible. My bump is almost gone, but now I have to. Black eyes. Unfortunately, it will no longer be able to conceal it at this time. People are aware, so just go with the flow. Did you manage to conceal it for people who hadn't met you before said, "Oh, I can't even tell," responded, "Okay, that's good, we'll take it." However, the makeup artist did an incredibly good job, wishing that they would edit the post. And she demonstrated to them what a true warrior looks like at a time when the Fever most required resilience. The injury to Lexie Hull was frightening. The bruise sappered, vicious. However, it turned into a symbol and a reminder that this Indiana Fever team would not give up, no matter how difficult things become. Yes, exactly. Yes, everybody says, I know I looked crazy, but it really looks better now than it did when it first happened. Look beautiful. Well, hopefully this goes down quickly, she said. To be honest, it seems better now than it did in the game. As Lexie Hull demonstrated her resilience, Indiana Fever supporters received a much-needed moment. Caitlin Clark's startling comeback. Her groin ailment was the subject of weeks of conjecture. She ought to miss the remainder of the season. According to some, others asserted that she was far from prepared. The sound only got louder when well-known figures like Lisa Leslie even recommended that Clark close it, since they have 3 games scheduled for tonight. There's a strong probability that this one will be a free hit, since honestly, does it really matter which do you plays a dream or the aces? Not in my opinion. Not in my opinion. Since we seem to fit in better with the dream, I'd prefer to play it. But I don't think there's much of a disparity in skill between those two groups. It really doesn't matter which of these you're playing, in my opinion. They will probably give you the same, as long as we don't penultimately play the Minnesota Lynx, who, incidentally, had blown a 21-point lead against the Seattle Storm. They have a team that allows you to grab them in a single game if they get chilly. You just need to accomplish it twice out of 3. For example, Indiana would hope to win a best-of-3 series against the Lynx. They heat up in one of the 3 games while the Lynx cool down in the other 3. Caitlin Clark, however, isn't made that way. She is a leader, a contender, and above she's a basketball player at heart. Then it took place. Fans saw her stretching with the squad, performing routines, and moving intensely during pregame warm-ups. It was the initial obvious indication that she wasn't finished. Not even close. The scans, which had been performed by the Fever's training team, revealed no significant damage. It was a slight strain at worst. That meant there would be no long-term hazard or risk to one's job. However, the fact that she is warming up with the club is a real plus for the Indiana Fever in the long run. It implies that Caitlin Clark will most likely return sooner. Soon. The regular season is when soonish is, in case you were wondering. My guess is that Caitlin Clark will return during the regular season. And I believe that many of you, it seems, likely that Caitlin Clark will return for the regular season, and the males will agree with that. We can't be upset about it either. For example, should Caitlin Clark return for the regular season? Not only was Caitlin watching from the sidelines, as she waited for the all-clear to take the floor, she was getting ready and revving up. The arena echoed with shock when she eventually onto the court once more. It was difficult to see. An elbow was thrown at her. You'll also notice that I did not say inadvertent elbow, because I did intentionally elbow her mouth. Her jaw might have been fractured. Thankfully, she didn't. She folds her leg beneath her. She falls to the ground with a thud. Her mindset, however, is what elevates Indiana more than her talent. She doesn't simply return to the court. She does so with a bang, reminding everyone that her goal is to compete, not to exercise caution. Caitlin Clark's return to action was more significant to Fever supporters than the return of a single player. It was optimism. It was faith. It served as a reminder that Indiana has a superstar who will not give up, no matter how difficult the season gets. Indeed, Lexie is using 2 black eyes. She will be on TV, so hopefully they apply some makeup. But dude, that's serious. Someone said that this was true. Yes, that is unquestionably real. Someone remarked, "What the F?" I've had head collisions and fringe in sports, but I've never come out like that. It appeared that she had completed 12 rounds of AT. While Lexie Hull was Caitlin Clark's unexpected return, which Indiana Fever supporters had been eagerly awaiting, proved her toughness. For weeks, there was conjecture about her groin injury, with some suggesting she should miss the game. Others asserted that she wasn't nearly ready for the remainder of the season. Thanks to the CC brand, the WNBA is now a marketable league with new viewers and increased expectations, who just want to watch the best basketball games. When prominent figures like Lisa Leslie even recommended that Clark should shut it down, the uproar just became louder. However, Caitlin Clark isn't constructed that way. She's a leader, a competitor, and most importantly, she loves playing basketball. The economics and revenue of the state of Indiana, the U.S. sports apparel market, the real fan attendance, and the economy were all significantly impacted by Caitlin Clark's injury. Then it happened during pregame, the first obvious indication that she wasn't finished. Not even close came when viewers saw her stretching with the squad during warm-ups, performing routines, and moving intensely. Having performed the scans, which revealed no significant damage, I examined it immediately to inform you that the WNBA is in a position of great opportunity. One that can be owned, promoted, and provided to the families of people in America who are willing and able to support. The WNBA are told to just play basketball. At worst, it was a slight strain, meaning there was no long-term harm to their careers. Danger. Caitlin wasn't only watching from the sidelines. She was getting ready, building up, and waiting for the all-clear to play. When she did take the court, once more, it hits a funny one, and it sent shockwaves around the arena. People are saying things like, "Oh, there are actually 4 out-of-season injuries in ending injuries." Caitlin Clark is returning if you're talking about being truthful about Clark. The supporters were louder. The squad exuded a fresh sense of belief, and the energy was different because, let's face it, Caitlin Clark is more than just a player. She's the lifeblood of Fever. When she takes an 8-month sabbatical to begin, she is the player that every coach, fan, and opponent visits to shut down a player due to persistent groin problems that simply won't go away without causing a serious injury. It doesn't make sense. To start so soon? It's for good reason. Analysts refer to her as the WNBA's economy. During her absence, ticket sales, ratings, and even the league's national discourse all declined. Not because they would have you can tank, meaning you can tell your coach to do whatever you want, but the moment she came back, everything changed. You're never going to get players on board to lose every game for the remainder of the season. The Fever were no longer simply another squad. They were once again a must-watch basketball team, and arenas were packed again. Everyone says, "You look stunning." I thought, I know I look crazy, but it really does look better now than it did at the beginning. Maybe this goes away quickly, she said. Honestly, it looks better now than it did in the game. The timing of this comeback is even more startling because most rookies would have opted to sit out and wait for the next season. Clark made the opposite decision because she recognized that her teammates needed her scoring, leadership, and playmaking skills which no one else in the league can provide. Today, Adidas does not occupy a dominant position. Candace Parker is the "it's as simple as it is." It's about marketing and strategy and what players know, says Candace Parker, director of grassroots with Adidas, in reference to Angel Ree of Reebok. The Fever required her today. and her presence alone transforms everything. Her number was retired as she earned it, and she didn't think about next year. That's what I'm telling you now, guys. Lexie Hull is a warrior. So for those of you who are unsure that she should play, don't be. She looked good. She was certainly prepared to go, and this was just after the game. There was no set talk that was off, no slurs, or anything of the sort. She pushes the tempo, adds intensity, and generates highlight plays that swing momentum instantaneously, forcing defenses to change their strategy the moment she touches the ball, creating space for shooters like Kelsey Mitchell and grinders like Lexie Hull. Her mentality, however, is what elevates Indiana more than her skill. She doesn't simply return to the court, but does so with a bang, reminding everyone that her goal is to compete, not to be cautious. When you're playing a jump shooting team, like the Minnesota Lynx, and you're a run-and-gun, high-octane offensive team at your best, like the Indiana Fever, you have a puncher's chance at a best-of-3. For Fever supporters, witnessing Caitlin Clark being back in action seemed more than simply a single player's return. It was a reminder that Indiana has a superstar who will not give up, no matter how difficult the season gets. After October 31st, she won't be able to work out with the Fever facilities since players will be locked out from teams. Caitlin Clark's unexpected comeback and Lexie Hull's toughness aren't just tales of two players, no matter how frightening the injury appears. One bravely endures agony and refuses to sit down, and the other returns to the court when everyone thought she wouldn't. They are the beating heart of Indiana Fever. Together, they have given Indiana something that cannot be quantified in points or rebounds. Belief that this club can overcome hardship. They are carrying the weight of a franchise in the eyes of the league. Belief that they can compete with anyone, regardless of age or experience. And that you can wow the world by fusing talent and passion. The Fever season has just rounded a curve. This team isn't done. And with Hull's grit and Clark's fire, Indiana isn't just playing hoops anymore. They're sending a message to the league, their skeptics, and all of the fans who are watching, actually, they're only beginning.